On behalf of the Visiting Research Professors Program of Goa University, I welcome all of you to this extraordinary session on an extraordinary subject, as what is Nalanda tradition and what is its value today, by an extraordinary speaker, Khen Rinpoche Geshe Tashi. I invite one and all, and I invite one of the most extraordinary Vice Chancellors we have to officially welcome you all. Sir?
Thank you very much, Professor Kerkar, and a very good morning to everyone. Tashi Dalek and Namaste. It's wonderful to have you all join us, and we anticipate that the numbers will increase in a few minutes from now of participants. I would like to begin by giving on behalf of the entire university a very warm welcome to the Venerable Rinpoche Tashi Tsering, Abbot of the Sera Mey Monastic University, and the first holder of the Dalai Lama Chair in Nalanda Studies as part of the Visiting Research Professor Program of Goa University. We are so honored to have you with us, Geshe Tashi, and we really are looking forward to hearing you this morning. A formal introduction of our distinguished speaker will follow my opening remarks of welcome, but we are really in the presence of one of the great minds of our country this morning. Also, a very warm welcome to Sri Rajiv Mehrotra, who's the Managing Trustee of the Foundation for Universal Responsibility of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. This is something that sort of we are so happy about. I will be talking a bit about our relationship with the Foundation for Universal Responsibility in just a moment. And also a warm welcome to Dr. Anita Dudani, who has been a great sort of help to Goa University in setting up in particular, the initial moves with regards to setting up of the Dalai Lama Chair. On the 10th of December last year, Goa University signed a memorandum of understanding with the Foundation for Universal Responsibility of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. It was in fact a very important day. That was actually also the 30th anniversary of the day on which the Nobel Peace Prize had been conferred upon on His Holiness the Dalai Lama. The next day, on the 11th of December, we were deeply honored and privileged to have the Dalai Lama spend time with us at Kala Academy and deliver his lecture, which I think was widely appreciated, the learnings that we all received that morning. So we have, of course, a formal relationship of cooperation and friendship with the Foundation for Universal Responsibility. This relationship with the Foundation for Universal Responsibility of His Holiness the Dalai Lama is intended to support us in establishing programs of advanced study in the Nalanda tradition. And specifically, what we have agreed to do is establish a Dalai Lama Chair for Nalanda Studies at our university under our Visiting Research Professor Program. The Dalai Lama Chair will focus on the study of wisdom, that is Sutra, and also method of practice, which are aspects of an ancient tradition under the umbrella of a modern Indian university. And apart from didactic studies of the Nalanda texts, our initial phase of cooperation will also encompass meditation, meditation and training of the mind, logic and debate, Buddhist metaphysics, conflict resolution and peace studies, and gender studies. We are looking forward to hosting many distinguished scholars who would, by their knowledge and skills, enhance our understanding in these important knowledge domains. And the first of these great scholars who is occupying the chair is Geshe Tashi Venerable Khenpo Tashi Tsering. So that is the context in which we are meeting this morning. The intention had been that through the year 2020, we would have a number of events, face-to-face visits by distinguished scholars who hold the chair to reflect on all of the areas that the Dalai Lama Chair covers. But as you know, we have spent this year in the shadow of this global pandemic. But at Goa University, we felt that it would be really unfortunate if the first year of the chair passed without any activity at all. And so, I took the liberty of contacting Sri Rajiv Mehrotra and suggesting that we could perhaps, have at least some events in the virtual mode, and through these online events, at least begin our activities on the chair. So this really does mean a whole lot to us. And after his lecture to us, Geshe Tashi will have a short conversation with Sri Rajiv Mehrotra on some of the themes that he is covering, after which Dr. Anita Dudane will coordinate the question and answer session. So we will request the participants in today's meeting, today's event, to kindly, if you have any questions, to please type them into the text box, and they will be, some of them will certainly be placed before our distinguished speaker. Why is the Nalanda tradition so important to us today? Well, let's look at it this way. For 7 glorious centuries from the 5th century of the Common Era, the Mahavihar at Nalanda was not only a repository of ancient wisdom, but also the site of a unique method of teaching learning that we desperately need in India today. And the Nalanda Method was about cooperative, argumentative dialogue between the teacher and the learner, based on asking and answering questions in order to stimulate critical thinking and to draw out ideas, underlying presuppositions, and inherent contradictions. And if the Indian education system is to ever emerge as a fount of creativity and innovation, we must emulate, incorporate, and repatriate the Nalanda tradition in our institutions of learning. Now, all of the great masters of the Nalanda tradition, all 17 of them were Indian. Nagarjun, Aryadev, Buddha Palit, Bhava Vivek, Chandrakirti, Shanti Deva, Shanti Rakshita, Kamalashi, Asanga, Vasa Bandhu, and so on. So this was very much an Indian tradition. But when Nalanda fell in the 12th century, an entire tradition of scholarship, in effect, disappeared from India. And it would have been lost forever had it not been transplanted north of the Himalayas in the great Buddhist monasteries of Tibet. And so it's really kind of, it's really history working in large cycles. 9 centuries later, we believe in Goa University that the time is ripe for the Nalanda tradition to once again be transplanted, this time from Tibetan monasteries to Indian universities. And of course, we will keep this soil fertile, so that the sapling of the ancient Bodhi tree takes strong roots in our university system. Again, I hope this has helped to contextualize our meeting today while we are thinking about a very important topic. This is also inaugurating a chair which is associated with a glorious name, a glorious office, a glorious person, and it's a chair that we think will really contribute to revitalizing our university and the teaching learning process in our university. So once again, welcome to everyone. And I, like everybody else in this meeting, am looking forward very eagerly for the learnings that we will receive from Geshe Tashi. Thank you very much. I will turn this over to Professor Savita Kerkar now.
Thank you, sir, for your warm welcome. We at Goa University believe that universities are centers of free thought. Universities are places where knowledge should flow freely, and universities are places of pursuit of knowledge. We also believe that universities are the centers for rational thought, thinking which believes in reasoning and rational deductions. It's no wonder that we have invited Wen Kampo Tashi Tsering to enlighten us on the Buddhist thought processes, which we believe are the most rational among the world religions. Buddha was an atheist. He did not believe in God. His thought process was almost like scientists in physics, chemistry, or biology laboratories, which believe in experimentation and data deduction. Geshe moved to India from Tibet to escape the occupation of his country by the Chinese, and he had years of education in Buddhist thought and has been closely associated with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He has taught in many universities in the world since 1991, and today he will talk about the Nalanda tradition. Nalanda, which is in Bihar, is the oldest university that the world has ever seen, where students from far-off countries throng to seek admission. Hearing about this subject from a man who has been appointed by His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama as the 91st Abbot of Sera Mey Monastery University will be a treat to all of us. Let us all welcome Geshe to share his thoughts on one of the greatest and the oldest universities that the world has ever created, Nalanda. Yes, sir. I pass the mic to Geshe. Welcome. Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
So it is really a great honor and a privilege to participate in this gathering and also to be the part of this very great potential project. Work together with the Goa University and the Foundation for Universal Responsibility of His Holiness Dalai Lama's Trust. And I'm really grateful to the Vice Chancellor, Professor Varun Shani, Professor Shavita Karka, and from the Dalai Lama's Foundation Trust, one of the trustees, Shri Rajiv, and also coordinator Aninda, and all the people who make this project, and to turn into a very, very useful and helpful for the long term to benefit to the many, many living beings, not only in this country, but also all over the world. As Vice Chancellor briefly touched on, the importance of reviving some of those great, great Indian knowledge, traditions, back to this country, and then gradually to spread to the world, which, many of the great thinkers, including His Holiness the Dalai Lama, says it is extremely important to have this kind of initiatives. And Goa University last year very kindly accepted this project joined with the Foundation for Universal Responsibilities of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And when I was asked to part of this project, I felt great honor and also felt great humble being part of this project. And today, although Goa University and one of our monastery in Monput, Devang Losling Monastery, have some exchanges going at the Goa University students coming to the Rosaling monasteries, participating, and some good culture exchanges. So now we would like to take this project more, structured and for the long term, the well-established, very helpful and useful project, not only from this university and eventually to get to many other learning institutions in India, as well as gradually to spread to the world. And this is one of the main His Holiness Dalai Lama's commitments, to revive the great Indian knowledge back to the 21st century. And His Holiness says it is perfectly possible if we work together, and it is not just possible, there are great potentials to make it happen. So therefore, I'm very grateful and humbled to be part of this project. So now why this project is so important, before I touch on today's our main topic, I would like to say a little bit on why this project is so important at this 21st century. Although these learning traditions were existed more than the 2,000 years in this country and all other parts of the world, why it is so crucial in this 21st century. Also, that is a part of one of our main topics today that I'm going to talk. Now, this country, India, in Tibetan we call Pakpe Yul, Jaga Pakpe Yul. That means the land of the realized beings. Land of the realized beings. For many hundred years ago, the Tibetan thinkers and great practitioners have seen the India and Indians are very, very what's called source, a very important source of the important culture, not just in Buddhism, but also many other ancient Indian spiritual traditions. And that's why the name land of the realized being. Realized being in the sense, the Indian people are very, very, cultured to practice ahimsa, non-violence, and also extremely, nurtured by the teachings of many great realized beings, including the Lord Buddha. And through those teachings, Indian people are nurtured by love, compassion, altruism, and so forth. Therefore, the title, India is called Land of the Realized Being. So now, these two important subjects, ahimsa and karuna, which are really some of the key factors us human beings and also non-human living creatures on this planet to live peacefully, to live, what you call the mutual respect, and to have tremendous sense of love, compassion, and altruism to each other. And living that kind of life individually and collectively within the family and within the society is, one's own, benefits, and it is also benefits to the others and, to the humanity. When we talk about ahimsa, we're not talking about simply absence of non-violence. And that is something very important part of this tradition. Not only in the Nalanda Buddhist traditions, but also ancient Indian traditions, spiritual traditions, have how to practice ahimsa. Not just absence of violence, but very much looking inward, our inner world, working with our inner world individually, then, what you call the conveying or spreading the non-violence to the outer world, to the outside world. And this, the Nalanda tradition, and is something very, very important part of that cultivation of that kind of knowledge, our inner, what you call the sources to bring ahimsa, to practice ahimsa. Then in the second part, cultivation of love, compassion. Although as a human beings, we all have naturally deep sense of, the sense of goodness, such as love and compassion. These mental attitudes can be expanded, can be cultivated further than naturally that we have. And that kind of cultivation, that kind of further, very deliberately further development of love, compassion, and altruism is also extremely relevant to, in general, ancient Indian traditions. And here today's topic is in the Nalanda traditions. So on those two subjects, the topic that we are going to touch on today, and hopefully in the coming months, years, through this initiative, that is the main reason why reviving some of these great ancient Indian, the traditions are important, and that's what very often His Holiness the Dalai Lama expressed that. So I will not go that much detail to the next point. Now we are going to touch on our main topic, what is the Nalanda tradition. First, as one of the earlier, the speaker briefly talked about where is Nalanda and so on and so forth, and also the Vice Chancellor briefly touched on the many great Indian masters were come from that institution. That institution, Nalanda, the Buddhist study institution or learning institution, it is a part of the many learning institutions during the earlier part of the Common Era. Not only Nalanda tradition, Nalanda Monastery, the learning center, but also there are other learning centers around the Nalanda, like Vikamalashila, and also some other learning centers. And these learning centers, are the really important centers to produce, such as mentioned earlier, such as these great thinkers like Nagarjuna, Ayadev, and so forth. Many, many great Indian masters, thinkers were produced from these institutions. And some of these great Indian masters came to Tibet, such as the Kamalashila, Shambhurakshita, Kamalashila, Atisha, came to Tibet and taught the Tibetan teachers this tradition. So that is really the connection, how the Tibetans have got this amazing treasure. They started around late. Started around late 7th century, and continue up to the present time. As Vice Chancellor briefly mentioned, there are already in India, there are many great monastic institutions to study. Many of these great Indian thinkers' treatises and their commentaries. And many of these treatises are translated into Tibetan language in a very early time from Sanskrit into Tibetan. So therefore, in the current Tibetan monastic institutions hold some of these great treasures. And these great treasures now, His Holiness Dalai Lama says, it is the time, and for many different reasons, it is the time to hand over to the Indian, particularly those younger generations. And, so therefore, through these, like Goa University, we would like to, hand over, or what we have, some of these great treasure came from India to Tibet, and whole, more than 1,000 years now, would like to hand over to the Indian, those younger generations through the different institutions, and to bring new Nalanda, what you call the learning institutions. I think in 2000, I can't remember exactly, already there is a central government have an initiative to build, to cultivate, to develop a Nalanda University. So that is something which we like to look at to move forward. And as like the ancient Nalanda learning institutions, these institutions, slowly that we develop to become international learning institutions, to come from all over the world to study these important topics. So what is Nalanda traditions? During those, although the current ruin that what we see in Nalanda, in Bihar, it seems historically those buildings were started around 5th century Common Era, but that area where the current ruined Nalanda, ruined buildings, that area seems for long term a learning a place before the current structure were built. For example, when the historical Buddha, he spent many times in that area, with the help of Magadha, king, and so forth. And one of his close disciples, Shariputra, came from that area. So, and also after Buddha passed away, soon after Buddha passed away, first Buddhist council to gather all his teachings, those great realized beings come together, and they did the first council in that area in Rajgir. So it seems, that area was very, very important learning area. Not even before Nalanda Monastery, the learning institution was established. So what is Nalanda tradition? Now, in terms of the subject matter, what these great masters had studied in there, many of the common science or common knowledge, such as Vedas, logic, Sanskrit grammar, medicines, are also the subject or the topics to study. Not only, the Buddhist subject, although it seems the Buddhist, the topics are the main subject to be studied in that institution, but in that institution, there were many other subjects to be studied. And in that sense, we can call that ancient Nalanda institution as one of the earliest universities in the world, because there are many different subjects and many different subjects were studied. And also along that, they have studied non-Buddhist topics such as Samkhya theories and other non-Buddhist spiritual traditions, philosophy. Then within the Buddhist, the teachings or the Buddhist teachings, there are those earlier 18 schools, or sometimes called 18 sects, 18 schools of Buddhist, thoughts were also studied. Then on top of that, one of the main topics, what they have studied are the Chittamatra schools, philosophy, thoughts, the mind, sometimes here translated mind-only schools, thoughts, and then also, the Madhyamika schools, thoughts, the philosophy, then Buddhist logic, Buddhist epistemology, Buddhist psychology, Buddhist ethics. Many of these topics were taught and learned and practiced and put into their daily lives from that, those masters from that institutions. And that is what Nalanda tradition is. Nalanda tradition, in terms of the topic or the subject, these are the main topics or the subjects. And these are studied in a very, very rigorous, critical manner, not just purely accepted by taught by the teachers, including those Buddhist thinkers, including the Buddha's his own words, were critically examined, critically analyzed, investigated, not purely accepted because Buddha taught. And that is really one of the important, what you call the tradition, important, the methodology to exist in Nalanda tradition. and which, in here, like this, and the monastery where I am, Sera Monastery, we still, use these critical analysis to really to learn and study these important topics, subjects. And currently, our main means or the mode of study is through debating. Initially to understand our, opponent's point of view or the thesis. Then really to argue. After you understand your opponent's thesis or the thesis, then you can argue, put forward your own argument to challenge, the assertions. And that kind of critical studying is something very, very important, what you call a tradition which exists in Nalanda, and what you call still in the Tibetan Buddhist monasteries, where they have study program, we still do that. Now, going back to the Nalanda, institutions, their traditions. Like, for example, I just want to give you one or two examples. The first example is this: when these Buddhist logics, Buddhist epistemologies, when these are established, mainly around 5th or 6th century by Dignac, Acharya Dignac, and followed by the Acharya Dhammakirti. The development of Buddhist logic and epistemology is very much through the interaction with the non-Buddhist, schools, thinkers, that schools, their philosophies. It is not just purely, the Buddhist sort of concept, or it is through the interaction with the, such as the Samchas, such as the, what you call the other, Nyanika and Verashik and Samchas, those great thinkers, through the interaction. And I think that is something what I am bringing over here. Why I'm bringing over here this, example is current, the modern science, development of modern science, understanding of human, what you call the, human brain capability and nature and structure, and also, the modern way of studying through the critical analysis with the outside, external world. And that way of studying, which already exists now in 21st century, or many of these big universities, your students, do that through the critical analysis. Then, you write your thesis, you write your dissertations, and then, through the different, what's called fields of science, like physics, and like, the neurologies, and so on and so forth. these two traditions, ancient Indian traditions, which has tremendously rich to explain our inner world, our thoughts, our emotions, and our, what you call our capability to, to cultivate inner value through the analysis, through the investigation, and through critical analysis. That approach, that kind of approach, and that kind of knowledge, try to bring to the modern what you call way of studying, bringing these two close together and supporting each other. Supporting each other. One can help other. As we all know, the modern education is, as His Holiness Dalai Lama says very much, modern education is very much material-orientated education, not very much to education to develop inner values. And what we need here is in a combination of these two. Of course, we need material wealth, which is important, but it is also important for us to have the inner wealth. And our inner wealth, our inner treasure is love, compassion, and altruism, tolerance. And these are the subject matter which critically explained by these great Indian masters, explain how to cultivate love, compassion, altruism, tolerance. There is one. I want to share you another brief example. That is this. One of the great Nalanda master, I think around 7th century, Shantideva, who composed amazingly important texts, how to cultivate within ourselves, how to cultivate, love, compassion, altruism, tolerance, and so forth. And he, explained how to cultivate this through, detail, logically explained, not just, dogmatically, but logically explained that is possible. It is perfectly possible to cultivate, to enhance love, compassion, altruism, tolerance, and so forth. In that, one of his texts called, the Guide to the Bodhisattvas Way of Life, Bodhisattva Avatara, he examined, when he talked about cultivation of tolerance, when somebody, cause a harm or cause a pain to your body, we feel he or she caused harm to my body. We have this strong sense of my, relation to our body. And he said, is it really true this body is yours? And recently, BBC has one nice program which is called BBC Earth. And in that program, there's one sort of what you call this segment, and in that it is called "How much of your body is your own?" That is very, very nice. The explanation to going through every part of our body, all the building blocks of our body, then examining and then asking this question, how much of your body is your own? And so therefore, there is a very what you call the common sort of ancient Indian, like these great Nalanda masters, understanding of the outside world as well as the inside world, and also some of the modern scientists, their understanding of the outside world, and to bring these two together to benefit to to the humanity. And another important topic which I want to briefly touch on is this, which is not unique in Nalanda tradition. It is very important, the ancient Indian tradition, which is the cultivation of, the shamatha, concentration, or calm abiding, and the cultivation of vipassana, or, the insight, which is very common, the methodology used by ancient Indian spiritual traditions, not just, the Buddhist masters. And these two sort of methods to cultivate calm abiding, or shamatha, which is the mind which have a, quality of stillness and a quality of clarity, shamatha in that sense. And also vipassana, insight, our mind which is extremely capable to analyze, to investigate some of the most detailed, reality of the world, of the things and events. And these great Nalanda masters, such as Nagarjuna and so on and so forth, they use these two techniques, shamatha and vipassana, to enhance love, compassion, altruism, and other important knowledge, to understand the realities as they are. And that is something which, again, now the relation to our second topic, which is what is relevant. What is relevant this tradition at this 21st century? What is the value today? This Nalanda tradition. It is extremely useful and helpful at this 21st century. This great tradition, this kind of tradition, because we are very much, our entire sort of focus is very much outside world, material development, and just how we look at the external appearances. We have a very little time and the energy to put how to make ourselves rich and wealthy, our internal world. And this, I will give you one simple example. When I was in London doing my MA in social anthropology, I write my paper to see whether the mindfulness meditation movement can be called as a social movement. The mindfulness meditation is exploded in the world. Wherever you go, talk about mindfulness meditation. Can we count that? My thesis was, can we count that as a social movement? For that, I did, my research talking to 2 or 3 international banking CAO, to ask them who are doing mindfulness meditation, ask them how much benefit do you get doing the mindfulness meditation 10, 12 minutes every day. All these 3 bankers, top bankers, they all said it is extremely useful and helpful for their life, for their job. So now the mindfulness meditation, what they do is very, very simple, without any meaningful content in that those mindfulness meditation. Simply just focus to your breathing, or just to be right here and now. Very, very little content in that meditation, but still they feel it has doing mindfulness meditation benefited a great deal in their daily lives. And that is the evidence. And that, these kind of, like other Indian culture, like yoga. But what's happening nowadays, these amazing ancient Indian culture, important cultures, take it out, the important contents of those, like yoga, like meditation, but simply put forward like in a very, very simple form, then it called the mindfulness meditation. Why I'm saying that is, it is very, very clear we need to revive some of these in ancient Indian, the traditions to the modern world, to the 21st century, because, our emphasis is very much just to the material development, and that makes particularly younger generation really cause huge trouble. I know, because I lived in London for many years, I know many young Westerners, from the modern education, they have all those things. The material, relatively they have all those things, but have a difficulty to really adjust their world, their life to the real world, and struggle. So therefore, the current, this what you call the Nalanda tradition will be extremely relevant, helpful, and important to the modern world. So I will conclude here as my introductory talk on on the subject of Nalanda tradition. Thank you.
So thank you very much for your enlightening talk. And now I pass the stage to Mr. Malhotra. So I think we could start the conversation. Would you like to take over, sir?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Geshe, for this very illuminating and comprehensive talk that you have given us. It's planted many seeds for the talks that will follow. And I think that there are so many learnings from what you said, but in the context of the modern university and the way we are struggling with it in India and in much of the world, I mean, you truly emphasize the truly universal character of a university, free from religious, political, national barriers or ideologies that throw open their doors for all persons, irrespective of caste, color, creed, or country. I think that has been the great learning. It is also what enables His Holiness the Dalai Lama to actually go to the places of worship of different traditions and pray and learn from them proactively. I was really interested in one of the major aspirations of the program at Goa University that might distinguish it from what is happening at most other academic institutions is to be able to combine some of the elements of practice. So while you can understand intellectually or read and be exposed to great scholarship about aspects of the Nalanda tradition, unless you've had a glimpse of it, and where the method and the wisdom, as you pointed to, needed to be combined, and you so beautifully described it as where the content of a meditative practice, as in mindfulness, is missing, and so the understanding and the transformation can never be complete, and meditation becomes almost a form of anesthetic. And so it was really this idea of accelerated learning, the Tantrayana tradition, that also so powerfully manifest in the Nalanda tradition. So how do you see that playing out in the modern university?
Yes. So in the modern university, although I have a very little knowledge, the university systems and so forth, but generally speaking, the universities are very open in the sense to, as you said, without any discrimination, without any, that kind of selection in terms of the race, culture, and so on and so forth. In that sense, I feel it is very important to have that kind of culture and system. But I know some of the great, the Western, what you call the scholars, and also great practitioners who are, modern universities lecturers, modern universities professors, who also practice some of these, what you mentioned, the Buddhist Vajrayana traditions. The Vajrayana tradition, Buddhist, I'm talking about in Buddhist Vajrayana traditions, the main subject matter, regardless of the different, many very, sophisticated images, visualizations, recitations, and so on and so forth. But all these, the ritual performance, visualization, recitation, all these are very much based on, again, going back to our main topic, based on, the wisdom, which is understanding of shunyata, understanding of ultimate reality, and, the cultivation of altruism, altruistic awakened mind, bodhicitta. In time, these two are the main ingredients in the Vajrayana practice, in which form that you do. Of course, concentration is one of the ingredients, but in terms of the actual materials, these two, wisdom, realizing emptiness, shunyata, understanding shunyata, and bodhicitta, are the two main ingredients that entire your Vajrayana, Buddhist Vajrayana practice is performed. Without these two, in Tibetan we have an expression. I will just tell you that expression, because one of the Tibetan cake is called tu. It is made of, main ingredient is dry, fine cheese. And it is made with the cheese, dry, fine cheese, with the butter and sugar. And it says, if you take it away, the butter and sugar, that your cake is just a lump of peas, a lump of cheese. And it is how it is explained. If you take it away, your experience of understanding of emptiness and your experience of altruistic awakened mind, if these two are absent, your Vajrayana, visualization, recitation, and all this elaboration, meditations are just pure elaboration, not the real cake. And that is what here.
I think there are a lot of people waiting to ask you questions, and time is running out. But I did really want to flag and celebrate what you pointed to about about debating, and the fact that debating is not just between monks. So here you are in the Nalanda tradition. You have the great masters like Nagarjuna and Chandrakriti and Aryadeva, and these large numbers of Indian Pandits. And when they were writing the text, they knew that their audience was multicultural and multidisciplinary, and that it had to stand up to the intellectual rigor and scrutiny of such a diverse audience. And so it wasn't just coming from a particular Buddhist perspective. And in that sense, that helped the expansion of the Buddhist principles, so that today we see in the world that Buddhism is very widely assimilated and accepted. So in the sense that in India, while Hinduism assimilates, I think the great achievement of Buddhism has been its ability to assimilate in different cultural contexts, because it can be filtered through the intellectual worldview of different traditions. And I think that what you've been pointing to so eloquently is that, we see this so marvelously embodied in His Holiness the Dalai Lama. His willingness to be challenged, to engage in conversation, and most of all, to say, I don't know. And that is always such a powerful moment when, we all secretly sort of believe he knows, but maybe more intuitively. And I just want to leave this final thought, because as we go ahead into the lectures, is that the struggle, and this is what the Nalanda tradition was pointing to, is that the experiences that we are talking about, the aspiration of understanding, ultimately shunyata is understood non-conceptually. The limits of vocabulary in the mind. And so the genius of that tradition was to be able to give you a glimpse or an experience of what shunyata is. And we can keep struggling with the vocabulary of emptiness, of inherent existence. Well, it's not really it. It's you, as someone who has experienced it, knows. I haven't got there yet. So thank you, Geshe. We're running out of time, and there are questioners waiting, and we look to flagging these many wonderful issues you have raised in the lectures to follow. So I will hand this over to our coordinator, Dr. Anita Dudane, to flag some of the questions that have been put up by the audience. Thank you very much, Geshe.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Anita?
Yeah, I'm just...
Yes.
Thank you, Geshe, for this wonderful talk. Let me start with asking the question from Dr. Khandu. He has asked, would teaching and practicing mindfulness together with the right view within an ethical framework, is it a good way, but does it carry a tag of religion, which will make people go away from this, as opposed to if you don't add the tag of religion, then people might take it completely in the wrong way. As you said, mindfulness is currently happening. So how would you reconcile that? Religion versus secular in mindfulness?
Yes. I think, here, when I said, the mindfulness and yoga, they extracted religious element of, that take it away. That doesn't mean, if what I don't mean if you want to practice profound mindfulness meditation, there should be a religious element. I don't mean that. His Holiness Dalai Lama says entire the Nalanda teachings into 3 parts. Really, there is a philosophical part, there is a science, in other words, understanding of the reality of the world. There is a depth, like a understanding of the mind, consciousness, and so on and so forth. And there is a religious part. So leave with the religious part, it is perfectly possible somebody can practice, the profound shamatha practice and vipassana practice without taking Buddhist, as a religious element of the Buddhism or the Buddhist teaching or the other ancient Indian spiritual tradition. For example, to practice the mindfulness meditation with the profound understanding of in nature of the world, nature of impermanence, which is again a very, very important reality of the world, including our own life. This understanding which Buddha taught and the subsequent Buddhist teachers have argued a lot, this nature of impermanence. That understanding can be collaborated with your mindfulness meditation, which is, without any religious element. And also, it is perfectly possible your mindfulness meditation can be collaborated with the cultivation of love, strong sense of love and the compassion without any religious element. And these are really perfectly doable, without any religious element. Yeah.
So the next question which takes off from that is from Professor Rahul Tripathi of Political Science.
Oh.
He says, could some of these techniques be used in the classroom as case studies to address contemporary problems of violence, peace, and reconciliation? So he's asking,
yes.
Yeah.
I think so. This is what I started my talk. When we talk, the main reason why His Holiness really want to revive this tradition back to the initially Indian community and to the world is to really, he says, cultivation of ahimsa. That is what here, sometimes people use the term disarmament of inner world. Really disarm your inner, those hatred, anger, jealousy, envy, attachment. These need to be reduced and need to be dealt with. And through the cultivation of these, the practices, which used by these great Indian masters. And I think in that sense, here, as the questioner asked, I think it is doable to do as a case study. However, sometimes to do the empirical analysis, the investigation, and to understand by the third person is not that easy, unless if we use some of those modern technology to understand your brain and so on and so forth. But I think it is perfectly doable.
Thank you, Geshe. The next question is from Professor Dayanand. He says, Gyan, the journey within, and Vignan, which is the journey without, they are the two distinct aspects of inquiry. He says most educational institutions focus on the second, the Vignan, the journey without. Did the Nalanda tradition amalgamate these two journeys?
Sorry, I didn't get it that well. Journey with and without. What does that mean?
So within is, like you said, empirical analysis within yourself, And Vijnana is science and outside, material, science, material. So did the Nalanda tradition amalgamate, did they put them together?
Oh, yes. I think here, in the Nalanda Masters tradition, they talk a lot about the outside world. They talk a lot about outside world, including they talk about, the building blocks of the material things. They have, even though they don't have those modern technologies, like, the microscope and so on and so forth, but they talk a lot about how the external worlds are cultivated, developed, and, and also they talk a lot about how to interact between the external world and our inner world. And in that sense, I think here, the modern, the understanding about our tools to understand outside world is only those sense consciousnesses. But the Nalanda masters, they talk about more than 5 sense consciousnesses as a tool that we have, human beings. We have the 6th mental consciousness, which has more power than the 5 sense consciousnesses to understand the outside world. And also these Nalanda masters talk about how accurate these sense consciousnesses are to understand outside world. Are there any gap between how we see the things and events and how they are? And the Nalanda Buddhist masters really have lots of explanations and diverse explanations. Not just the one just but diverse explanations. The accuracy of our sense consciousnesses to understand outside world. So yes, there is a lots of explanation about inside world as well as outside world in the Nalanda tradition. I hope I had the answer to the question, but I'm not very sure.
Excellent answer. Which the next question has come from Delhi. They're saying, in this situation of the university, can there be learning between modern science and the Nalanda tradition? Can we see this happening here?
I really hope that will happen, and that I really believe it is perfectly possible. It's perfectly possible. We may need to adjust few things. We need to deliver the things slightly different ways, but otherwise, I think it is perfectly possible. But also, some of you know, His Holiness Dalai Lama strongly encourages us in these institutions, monastic institutions, the monks who are studying these ancient Indian traditions. Also, we should study the modern science. And now, in our curriculum, we have included studying modern science, and there are classes carrying on to study physics and the biologies and so on and so forth. Yeah.
And the final question I need to ask you in this is that would Vipassana and actual meditation, which is very powerful to grow, would that be included in the practice in the university when it's taught as a didactic subject?
I think it may need initially like what you call the small group, very dedicated people really want, and initially that kind of small group to create the model, then gradually to learn from there, then I think it's perfectly possible to, for example, when I started this course called Foundation of Buddhist Thought, entire course is very much structured as a the mode of study is very much like a Western the modern study, but also included meditation as a part of their homework. And I think that is perfectly possible to bring the shamatha and vipassana meditation as a part of the university study subject.
Geshe-la, I did say it was the last question, but there's a wonderful one more question that has come.
Okay.
And I think it will be very wonderful. It says, why do you think we have lost the tolerance to debate and have nuanced conversation? We see that everyone has their own narrative, which is what is the sole truth, and tend not to empathize with others. There's so many opposition in narratives, and they cause such great misunderstandings among us, whether it is in relation to religion, race, sexuality, caste. So what do you think, and why have we lost this tolerance? This is a wonderful question, and I would like to end with this.
Yes. My answer is this. Nalanda masters have suggested, as a student, you must be, unbiased. To be a student, you have to have those three qualities: unbiased, willing to learn, and now I can't remember what. So unbiased is very, very important one. Very, very important one. So very often, as His Holiness Dalai Lama says, while we are in a very young age, we don't discriminate. We don't differentiate different colors, different culture, different race, and different religions. When we've grown up slowly, then we pick up all those things, culture, those things impose upon us, or we learn through the environment. But what we can do, from the very young age, we can cultivate deep and teach or bring a sort of culture of unbiased attitude. I mean, in the debating yard, occasionally there are quite strong, what you call the energy when you debate, when you start to lose your assertions, and when your opponent's debater is very good, you may start to lose your temper a little bit. But it is important deep down to have this deep sense of unbiased.
Thank you, Geshe-la. Now I will end the question answer session and pass it on to Dr. Savita to say thank you.
Thank you very much for this very entertaining session and very cheerful session with smiles from both sides. It was very enjoyable. I'm very thankful to Geshe-la for giving us an insight to the Nalanda tradition of education, and I'm sure we have a lot to learn from it. I must thank Geshe-la for agreeing to deliver this talk, and our Vice Chancellor for being completely open to our endeavor of pursuit of knowledge and being a pillar of encouragement in all our activities. The session would have not been possible without the support of Mr. Rajiv Mehrotra, who is a kind of a rock in support of adventures of knowledge. Dr. Anita Dudhane, a charming and cheerful allergy specialist practicing in Goa, but I must point out that the pursuit of spiritual thought and knowledge is something she never allows anyone to be allergic to, nor is she. She's been closely associated with His Holiness and has always been the bridge between His Holiness and Goa and all his activities. I thank you all for being a part of this first virtual talk of VRPP and hope all of you are enlightened and reconsolidate your commitment to rational thinking. Thank you once again, and see you for the next talks. We'll be announcing them shortly, and all our other activities too. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank
all
you
the
very
people
much. I'm
who
sorry I didn't
participate,
say
and organizers, and all the people.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Yeah.
Yeah.